How good are the brand new Grand Archive starter decks? In today's video, we're going to open up and review all 3 of them. Are they worth it for you as a new player of Grand Archive? Do they do a good job of creating that new player experience? That's what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to show off all the cards, talk about the deck archetypes, what kind of players each deck appeals to, and all of that good stuff. And then, if you would like to see these decks played in person, stick around for tomorrow's live stream, where me and a good friend of mine battle all of these Grand Archive starter decks against each other. If you are watching this in the future, then we'll likely have a VOD of that live stream. All of this will be linked down below in a pinned comment. And you know what? While you're down there, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel if you like what I do here. I have a myriad of ways for you to support the channel if you would like. You know, subscribing is free, but if you would like an excellent playmat with art drawn by a Grand Archive artist, Honshu, great friend and great artist, I have playmats, I have sleeves, all that kind of good stuff on the Red Zone Rogue online store. Bunch of links down below. But enough talk about that kind of stuff. Let's get on with taking a look at all 3 of these Grand Archive decks and kind of going deep into it. Let's do it. All right, and here we have all 3 of the Alter Edition Dawn of Ashes starter decks. Before we get started, I do want to say one quick thing, and that is that each of these decks has the chance to have a really, really rare collector rare. These collector rares are going to be worth a decent amount, and they are very, very sought after. I don't remember the exact pull rates on them, but they are maybe, I don't know, 1 in 30 decks or something around that. If you know the true numbers, please let me know in the comments down below. But they're pretty hard to find, so you do have some chase here. And there also are some unique cards in these decks that you can only get in these decks and not in the booster pack set. So without further ado, let's check out Lorraine first. So let's kind of check out the packaging and presentation, because that kind of goes into the review as well. We're not going to spend too much time on it, but I do want to say that, you know, it's really nice. This reminds me of some of the packaging and products from what I would consider some of the top tier Japanese card games. I remember games like Weiss, Card Fight Vanguard, just a lot of those games having similar packaging. This looks very, very professional. It looks like something honestly produced by a company like Bushiroad, right? Which is a good sign for, you know, Grand Archive's very first release. They have that AAA quality. It looks like a product that, you know, can compete with the best of them, and I truly think it can. And yeah, that's kind of all there is to it. We do have a deck list here on the back and a little blurb from the character. It says, "My sword answers to the Grand Archive's call." It also says each starter deck has a chance for a randomly inserted collector super rare. That's what I mentioned kind of at the top of the show here. So yeah, let's kind of open this up and see what it comes with and talk about the contents. And, you know, the deck itself. I'll be honest right now, I do think this Lorraine deck is probably the strongest of the 3. And that's because Lorraine is one of the strongest heroes in the game. And as you can see here, there's not much in ways of extra frills, basically. It's just kind of like a no-nonsense thing. You get the box, it has the deck. That's about it. If you'd like to learn how to play, they do have a learn how to play segment on their website. And of course, here is a QR code that can direct you to said how to play guide on their website. And also look at all these little cute Silvie emotes. If you join the Discord, you'll have access to all of those little cute emotes. I like how this is actually just printed on like actual cardstock. I don't know. I'll just say that. And also, I will say that the Grand Archive cardstock is very, very nice. It's some of the nicest feeling cards I've ever dealt with. And if you know me, if you're, you know, a frequenter of the channel, member of the Rogues Gallery here, you'll know that I've played almost every card game under the sun. So that, me praising the cardstock is a very, very good thing. Feels very nice. Even this little throwaway thing feels very nice. And of course, we have the deck here in the shrink wrap. If we got a collector rare, it will be nestled in here. So let's kind of open this up and find out. All right, shrink wrap off. Let's see if we got one of the collector rares, which would be very nice. It'd be very nice. So we have Lorraine Blade Master. That's our level 2 Lorraine. Here is the level 0 Spirit of Wind. So this is a wind deck. We have the level 1 Lorraine, level 3 Lorraine. It doesn't look like we got any spice here, because I do think if we would have pulled one, it would have been at the start there. So let's kind of take a look at the deck and kind of show you what it's got going on. So this is your champion suite, ending with Lorraine, level 3, Lorraine Crux Knight, enabling that advanced Crux element. This right here, Wind Lorraine, is a top tier meta archetype. Now, a lot of the cards in here you can use for that build, but you will need, extra cards to power up the deck to make it that viable. But you're going to be using like Spirit of Wind, you're going to use level 1, level 2 Lorraine, and some builds use Crux Knight, but a lot of the ones use the Spirit Ruler Lorraine from the booster packs, which is not a chase card. It's just you can pull it in regular packs as a common. But this is a great foundation, excellent hero, one of the best in the game. And now we have her material deck. And let's kind of take a look at the material deck real quick. Some of the cards in here you will use, and I will point them out as we talk about them. Bauble of Abundance is just a great starter one that lets you draw cards. I actually really like Clarent in certain matchups. I think this is a great card that can only be found in this starter deck and previous starter decks and as promos. So this is a card that you cannot get in booster packs. So this is a good get here. Fire Resonance Bauble is really great to play against specifically the Rai deck, because that one is a fire deck. We have the Life Essence Amulet, which is a great way to draw cards. I said amulet weird, but yes, it's a great way to draw cards. A lot of these, like I said, you will be upgrading them, but they're still good to have, and it's a great foundation. Like this Ornamental Greatsword. Sword of Seeking, this one does actually see play in material decks and sideboards. It's usually the best option currently for your level 1 Lorraine, being able to materialize any weapon with cost 0 from your material deck. And this one costs 0. It's great. We have the Warrior's Longsword, another really great one. You're going to run this in almost all of your warrior decks currently. And then Prismatic Edge, same kind of deal. This one's actually incredibly good, and much like Clarent here, can only be found in the starter deck. So these are two cards that you can only get in a starter deck like this or as promos. So that alone makes it somewhat worth it as a baseline of getting you into Grand Archive. Now let's take a look at some of the cards in the main deck. Banner Knight is an incredibly good card. I personally play it in my Wind Lorraine deck. It's just a great card that kind of pumps your team, including your weapons. That's a great one. We have the Crusader of Asa. Not too bad. It's kind of like a decently statted ally. This is one that won't make it into a ton of decks, but it's a great card to start out with. Deflecting Edge is one that a lot of people play. It's just a great defensive card and synergizes well with your swords. Lorraine as a whole can be built a couple different ways, but she's generally really good as a aggro or mid-range champion. And a deck like this is going to end up being more aggro here. So we have Esteemed Knight, just a great little ally there. We have a couple Honorable Vanguards. It's a great unit that has Floating Memory, which is a key mechanic in Grand Archive. Helps you play cards from your material deck a little bit easier. Inspiring Call is another pretty decent, kind of like starting skill, kind of like pumps your team and gets your card draw in your memory. Same with Opening Cut, just kind of a nice little starter one. Just a nice little starter attack. Savage Slash is one that I run 4 of in my Wind Lorraine deck, in my competitive Wind Lorraine deck, so this is another great one. Just a common card, but it's great to just pick up playsets here. Sudden Steel is just another great one, kind of just showing you a suite of attacks for Lorraine. We have a couple training sessions that can buff some of your units. Veteran Soldier is another decent one with Floating Memory. Some people actually run these in their competitive decks. They're all right. I'm a really big fan of Weaponsmith. It's a great card, can add durability counters to your swords so you can attack with them over and over again. Favorable Winds is another one that people run in their competitive decks, just pumping up your team and has Floating Memory. We have a single Hurricane Sweep. This is another one that almost every Wind Lorraine runs. It's just really good, kind of like a board sweeper because it has Cleave, attacks all of your opponent's dudes at the same time. Phalanx Captain is a 4 of in my Wind Lorraine deck. It just pumps up your human allies. It's a great card. Same with Reclaim, another really great card that I run in my personal Wind Lorraine deck. Just good for saving some of your dudes, and also has Floating Memory. which is great. Swift Recruit is a must play 4 of, in my opinion, in any Wind Lorraine deck, so getting these is also very good. Wind Cutter, same kind of deal. Just an absolutely fantastic attack because you can keep attacking with it, which is really good. And now we have some of the advanced element cards that you can only play once you've leveled up your Lorraine to level 3 here. Cruxite, Spirit Blade Ascension, Dispersion, Ghost Strike. These are actually all really good. I run almost all of these in my competitive deck. So this is actually will get you a good chunk of a competitive Wind Lorraine deck. So I run Cruxites in my deck. I run Spirit Blade Ascensions. I would pick up 2 more of these to run the full 4 of. Dispersion doesn't really fit in my personal build, but this is not a bad card. It is a super rare. So, you know, you do get some super rares in this. Not a bunch. You don't get a full play set, but this is one that's not too bad. Ghost Strike is another one that I don't personally run in my build, but it's not terrible. You can just pump up all of Lorraine's attacks for the whole turn. It costs 0. Infusion is one that I run, and I think it's quite good. Getting 3 here is not bad at all, especially since it is a rare. So getting 3 of those is great. Same with Spirit Blessing. It's a rare, and you get 2 of them, which I think I run a full 4 of these, or maybe 3 in my deck. But in any case, there's a ton of cards here that I think are great, and that I personally run in my own competitive Wind Lorraine deck. So this is a fantastic foundation for only 15 bucks. Like, here, I'm just gonna quickly, since this is a deck that I personally run, let me quickly take out all the cards that I actually run in my competitive Wind Lorraine deck. I don't run the Veteran Soldiers or these. I do have a 4 of that. So like there's a decent amount here. And Deflecting Edge is a iffy one. It's a good one, but I run a more aggro version. So like about this much of the deck is what I have in my literal competitive Wind Lorraine deck currently. So it's a good chunk. It's a good chunk, not counting some of the cards here like the Prismatic Edge. I run Clarent in my sideboard, Longsword, Sword of Seeking. I run these 3. And then, of course, the Lorraine package. And Deflecting Edge is really good. I skew more towards aggro, but if you want to play a little more mid-rangey or you want to have more defensive options, Deflecting Edge is very, very good. So, highly, highly recommend Lorraine. Very, very good champion. One of the best in the game currently. And the fact that this starter deck is Wind Lorraine, one of the best versions of Lorraine, is very good. Keep in mind, you can mix and match as you choose. Like, you don't have to build Wind Lorraine. You can build Fire or Water, which is really, really cool. And one of the best things about Grand Archive, in my opinion. So, yeah, let's check out let's do the Rai deck next. Let's check out how Rai does. All right, and of course, here's your boy, Rai. Rai is a mage, and as such, plays very much like you would expect a mage. A lot of combo potential to have these really, really big explosive turns. Rai is also, in particular in this starter deck, a fire champion. It uses the Spirit of Fire, but once again, like Lorraine, you can mix and match as you choose once you get to constructed. But this deck in particular is a fire deck. And on the back we see, what new magic should I master today? And that's kind of like all about Rai. So let's take a look at this deck. All right, and as I take the shrink wrap off, Rai is a deck that I personally would like to build. I think it plays a lot like Storm, if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, or even something like Runecraft if you play Shadowverse. That was my first instinct here, is like, oh, this kind of reminds me of Runecraft with like Spell Boost, which is really cool. So we have Rai level 2, and of course, like I said, the Spirit of Fire. We also have Rai level 1 Spellcrafter, and our level 3 Rai Storm Seer. So these are the progression here. I feel that some people run Storm Seer and some people run the booster pack one, which has the ability to double your spells. And in some cases that is very, very strong because you're going to be blasting your opponent for a ton of damage. But yeah, Rai is definitely a viable choice. One of the more difficult ones to play in Constructed, but you know, in the grand scheme of these starter decks all playing against each other, I think Rai is a very, very good option. Just much more of a thinky champion than Lorraine, where Lorraine is more just like, I'll punch you really hard. Here we have the Gem of Empowerment that increases Rai's level for the turn, and level is really important for Rai, as the Storm Seer increases in level for each arcane element in the banishment. So Rai starts out as a fire champion, but once he hits level 3 becomes arcane as well. So he has access to arcane and fire element cards. Crystal Empowerment is good for pumping up your level. Endura, the Scepter of Ignition, is one of the cards unique to the starter deck. You cannot get this in booster packs, so this is something that is unique specifically to this product. We have a Life Essence Amulet like we saw in the Lorraine deck. Mana Limiter is just a great way to draw some cards. Surveillance Stone is another way to draw cards against aggro decks, so pretty good against Lorraine. Here we have the Tome of Knowledge, which is pretty good. Pumps up your level by 1, and then you can cash it in to draw a card. And then we have the Water Resonance Bauble, which is good against the Silvie deck. And as you can see, these decks were all kind of made to play against each other. And then, of course, we have the Arcanist's Prism, which is, once again, much like the Endura, unique to this starter deck. And you can kind of see a theme here. Each starter deck has 2 material deck cards that are unique to the starter deck you cannot get from booster packs. You can, of course, buy them as singles, but, you know, if you're going to spend like the 12, 15 bucks anyway, you know, might as well just get the deck and get a good starting foundation for your Grand Archive journey. So there we have the Arcanist's Prism. It's a really interesting card. All right, so let's talk about some of the cards here in this deck. As you can see, we have a bunch of fire cards, we have a bunch of arcane cards, and some kind of like normal cards here. So we have the Barrier Servant, just a great protector card. I think this is a very playable card, not too bad. Careful Study is also not too bad at all because you're gonna put a bunch of Enlighten counters on Rai, and you can do a lot of stuff with Enlighten counters, including draw a card. It also has the Efficiency keyword, which costs less for every level that Rai has. So once again, if you're familiar with Runecraft in Shadowverse, you want to have a lot of, in this case, instead of spell boosting, you want to have a lot of levels on Rai to make your cards more efficient. Idle Thoughts is one that some folks run in just a lot of decks because it has floating memory. Here we have a Grand Archive staple, the Library Witch. It's just a common card, but having 4 of them just right off the bat is fantastic. Library Witch finds herself in many, many Grand Archive decks. This is, like I said, a staple of the game currently. Mage's Disciple, I think, is a staple of mage decks. Just really, really good. Pumps up your champion's level by 1, and on death, it draws a card. Pretty good. Peer into Mana is just another way to get Enlighten counters. And like I said, you can use Enlighten counters for a couple different things, including drawing cards, which is great. Scry the Skies is just a good way to you know, manipulate the top of your deck. It's kind of like a Ponder or something like that from Magic. Blitz Mage is a good way to deal damage. It's just a 3/1, but remember, in Grand Archive, you can immediately attack with the units that you play. So this is a great way to chip down your opponent's life or to kill off their board. You really want to do board control with this deck because this deck, like I said, unlike the Lorraine deck, is more of a thinky deck, and you don't want to kill your opponent with your allies. You can maybe use them to chip them down, but you really want to set up for a huge explosive turn with your powerful fire spells. So this is good for clearing the board, killing your opponent's dudes. Creative Shock is a must play. This is a 4 of include in many, many fire decks, not just Rai, so getting a couple of these is great. Cremation Ritual is also really good, especially combined with the Library Witch, because Library Witch, when it dies, you get a draw card, and Cremation Ritual says you have to sacrifice an ally you control as an additional cost and then draw 2 cards. So with this combination, you get to draw 3. Same with the Mage's Disciple, which also draws you a card on death. So this is just like a draw 3, which is great. Disintegrate is a pretty good one. It's just kind of like a great removal spell. Has efficiency, so it costs less, and it just straight up destroy an ally or regalia. Pretty good. Here's one of the finishers of the deck, Fireball. You definitely want to run a full playset of these, so it's great to have them here. Like this is one of your big finishers. There's likely 2 big finishers in this deck, so that's one of them. We'll talk about that. The Flame Rune Swordsman is a great one. It's just a 2/2 for 3 that has floating memory. Just a really solid dude. You can actually get out there and start cleaning up your opponent's board with it or attacking their face, and when they finally kill it, you can use that floating memory to pay for stuff from your material deck. We also have Focused Flames, just really good, solid removal. 4 damage to an ally, costs 1 less to activate if you are a mage. And yep, we're a mage, so it's gonna cost 1 less. So once again, great removal. We wanna focus on board control. Ignite the Soul, just a great little floating memory card. Just 1 damage to a unit, but it has floating memory, which is great. This is a great card to play early. Here we have an Impassioned Tutor. Impassioned Tutor. Here we have the Impassioned Tutor. Great for leveling up your champion. Purge in Flames is a really, really nice board sweeper. It says deals 2 damage to all units except your champion. Class bonus deals 3. And yes, we are a mage, so we're going to be doing 3 to everything. This is a really, really imperative card to have for a lot of matchups. And then we have the advanced element arcane cards that you can only play once you level up to 3. I do want to mention really quick what Fireball does, because I kind of glossed over it. It costs 2 less to play if you are a mage, which we are. So it only costs 2 to play, but it says deal 1+ level damage to target unit. Units include your opponent's champions. So what this means is you want to be really, really high level and then fireball them for 10 or more. That's kind of the goal of this deck, is to just set up situations where you can just control the board and then absolutely destroy your opponent with fireball and some of the other stuff we're going to see in just a second. Anger the Skies is a nice board sweeper, 3 damage to all allies, 4 if you are a mage, so 4 damage to all allies, great. This is the other finisher. This is Arcane Blast. This is an 11 cost efficiency card, so it costs less for every level you have, and you can see how these kind of pair together, because this one deals more damage for every level that you have. This one costs less for every level that you have, and it just says deal 11 damage to target champion. This is one of the big finishers of the deck. The Arcane Blast and the Fireball is mostly how you're going to win games. Between these 8 cards, this is what you want to set up. Like I said, this is a very thinky deck. You have a lot of cards that let you draw cards and do a lot of shenanigans and just keep playing stuff and drawing cards and increasing level and playing stuff. And then you can, bam, 11 you with Arcane Blast, Fireball you for, for 12 or whatever. You can do these in the same turn. And it's just great. All right, so what other stuff do we have in the Arcane Suite? We have the Arcane Disposition, which is just a really, really nice card. It says draw 2 cards, and then at the beginning of the end phase, discard your hand. That's kind of bad. Class bonus, draw a card. So basically what this does is it just lets you draw 3 cards. It's just a great way to kind of like filter your hand. And if all the cards are in your memory and you don't have a hand, then you know what? Don't have to discard it. And then your next turn, you'll get all those back. Really, really nice card. Really great one to set up for a huge combo turn. Arcane Sight, just a great one. +1 level for the turn, draw a card. Great little card here. And then we have 2 little one-offs at the end, including the super rare Power Overwhelming, which is a way to spend your Enlighten encounters for anything other than drawing cards. So it says remove any amount of Enlighten counters from your champion. Your champion gets +1 level for each counter move this way until end of turn. So this is a great way. If you massed a ton of Enlighten counters, you can just Power Overwhelming to make your character really, really high level and then just dumpster them with Arcane Blasts and Fireball. There are situations where you can set up like maybe 2 Arcane Blasts in your hand plus 11 Enlighten counters and then just do Power Overwhelming, blast you for 22. Cool stuff here. So this is a super rare. This is one that you will likely want to get more copies of to upgrade the deck. And then we have Spell Shield Arcane, which is a really, really nice defensive card. Yeah, and that is the Rai deck. Like I said, more difficult for sure to play than Lorraine, but still very, very fun. It's a very thinky deck, and it's one that I personally really like to pilot. It's not one that I've built and constructed yet. I have opted for Assassin, because of course I did. Red Zone Rogue, Assassin, yeah. And also Lorraine, because, you know, I just kind of like the aggro stuff. But this isn't one that I definitely want to build, and I think it's a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's check out the final deck, Silvie. And at last, we have Silvie the Tamer. On the back, it says, making friends is easy. Look, I'll show you. She is all about playing big, scary beasties and, you know, maybe some harmonies and some flutes and all that kind of good stuff here. She's one of the fan favorite characters, and yeah, let's check it out. All right, so as we open the deck and take off the shrink wrap, I do want to say that this is likely the most difficult of the 3 to pilot because Silvie is currently one of the more underpowered heroes in the game, though she's still pretty good. We have Spirit of Water, so this is the last of the elements, the water deck. Level 1 Silvie, no collector rare, but still pretty good. Silvie is fun, and if you like big monsters, then this is the champion for you. Level 3, all animal and beast allies you control get +1 health and have intercept, which means they can block for Silvie, which is great. So yeah, let's take a look at some of the material deck cards for Silvie here. So we have Beast Spawn Boots, which is just a great way to protect Silvie. You can give her a Spell Shroud. We have Beast Spawn Ears, which is great for leveling her up because her level also matters, but we're not going to be getting to like level 11 or something like Rai. This is more like getting to like level 5 and like staying there so you can command your beasts with the Pride mechanic. So this is a great way to do that. To give you just kind of like a passive +1 level. So even at level 3, you have a passive level 4. We have the Beast Spawn Pause, which is you can pump up a beast for a turn, which is not too bad. We have the Flute of Taming, which you can also use to give your champion 1 level. So between the Beast Spawn Ears and the Flute, you can have a level 5 with a level 3 Silvie, just kind of on board without anything else, which is not too bad. Or you can use it to pump one of your beasts or animals. Here we have the Life Essence Amulet, lets you draw cards when your dudes die. We have the Melodious Flute that says your champion gains +1 level as long as you control an animal or beast, and you can banish the Melodious Flute to say the next harmony action you activate this turn is a melody in addition to its other types, which matters for that archetype. I do believe this one here is unique to this starter deck. We have the Wind Resonance Bauble, great against the Lorraine deck. And then finally we have the Seed of Nature. This is the other card that is unique to this starter deck. Enters the field rested. On enter, your champion gets +2 level until end of turn, which is great. And then you can activate it and banish it, and then your champion gets another +2 level until end of turn. So just a great way to set up Silvie so she can command her high-level beasts. All right, so let's talk about the Silvie deck. You're gonna have cards that are melodies, and they're also gonna have beasts with pride and you know, some other stuff here. So let's check it out. We have the Blissful Calling, which kind of lets you, it's like card selection, lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and you can reveal an animal or beast, put in your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck. So this is just really great for getting the beasts that you need. We have the Empowering Harmony, which has, you pump up Silvie's level by 2 for a turn. It also has Harmonize, so if you've activated a melody card this turn, then you get a draw card, which is something like this that says Tamer Skill Melody. So if you played Blissful Calling and then do Empowering Harmony, then you get that Harmonize. So we got 2 of those. So this is one of the bread and butter cards of Silvie, Grey Wolf. It's a 2/2, but it will not obey you, will not attack unless your champion is level 2 or higher, and that's why you have a lot of these level increasing cards in the deck. It's also one of the things that makes Silvie a little bit more tricky than something like Lorraine. We have a Rebellious Bull, which is a pretty well-statted ally. So it enters the field rested, and it's a 3/4 with Pride 3. And the Pride 3 is not that hard to get, to be honest. Like, that's just a level 2 plus like a Beast Spawn Ears, right? And it's a pretty chunky unit. We have Scry the Skies, some good card selection. We saw this in the Rai deck. I love this one, Smack with Flute. So you can attack with this. It says, on attack, your champion gains +1 level until end of turn, and it also has Floating Memory, which is really good. So doing this early is great. And so you can use that Floating Memory to play stuff from your material deck. We have another Melody here. Allies you control get +2 health until end of turn, and then class bonus, they also get +1 attack. So this is a great little card that you can play defensively, or you can play it aggressively. It's fast, so you can do it anytime you have priority. Trusty Steed's another good little pumper. It's a 1/3 that also pumps an ally by 2 when it enters. Not too bad. This is a fan favorite, the Blue Slime. It's a 1/4, Pride 4, class bonus. Whenever Blue Slime is dealt damage, put a buff counter on it. So every time it gets hurt, it gets stronger. Buff counter gives it +1/+1 for every buff counter. So this is actually a great card. This is a good staple in this deck. This is going to be one of your like primary units. Being able like just to kill something for 4 right off is pretty hard to do in Grand Archive, with the exception of some of the powerful spells in like the Rai deck, for example. Here we have a Deep Sea Beast Bonder. This is one that gives you +1 level and also has Floating Memory. So this is just another good little one to have. We also have some Dewdrop Hairs, adorable. They're just a 1/3 with Floating Memory. 3 of those. Freezing Hail, I actually really like this card. 2 damage to any unit, and that unit doesn't wake up during its controller's next wake up phase. So like, great way to just kind of like freeze, lock down a unit, which is really good. The fact that it says unit means you can do it on your opponent's champion. Which is also great. We have Giant Tortoise, which is just the 1/6 turtle. This is just the 1/6 turtle. He's just got a big booty. This, by the way, is super annoying if you can get to level 3 and you have the turtle, and so it's a 1/7 because it is a animal, right? So she pumps up all animal and beasts. This one is an animal. And it also gives it intercept. So having this thing being able to block for you is just super, super annoying. We have Give Bath, adorable. My dog would hate this. Remove all temporary damage from an ally. So in Grand Archive, it's kind of like Magic the Gathering, where units have like temporary damage and they only die when they take lethal for the turn. And at the end of turn, all damage goes off. So this is kind of like a way to heal up your unit on your turn. Or on your opponent's turn too, because it has fast. Also has floating memory, so that's not too bad. Here's one of the big units here. This is a Pride 6 land or lakeside serpent class bonus. It gets +1 for each water element card in your graveyard. So this can be huge. This can be really huge. This is a great finisher for the deck, but you have to be level 6 to command it. Yeah, we also have the Mist Resonance, just a great way to pump up the team. But like I said, there's a lot of ways to pump up your dudes to make sure they live, right? This one also has Harmonize. You've activated a melody card this turn. Allies you control assign damage with their life instead of their power. So this is another great little combo card. There's only one of them in the deck, but it's a great little one if you have a bunch of these turtles out, right? And you can just like smash in for an insane amount of damage. We have the Piper's Lullaby. Just gives your champion +1 until end of turn, and you get to rest an ally. It's a great way for clearing the road so you can attack in with your dudes. We have a Revitalizing Cleanse. This is a just great way to heal. Just reveal all cards in your memory, and then you heal X, where X is the amount of water element cards. And you also get to draw a card, which is pretty good. It costs 5 though, so it's a pretty spendy card. And then here we have the Terra element cards that are only playable after you've leveled up to level 3. So these are generally a little bit stronger. So we have Gaia's Songbird. It's a nice little 1/2. On enter, reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal a beast. Put it in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your deck. Great. Just for 1 is just really, really good. Just, you know, great to go get a good beast here. Keep in mind that some of them are animals, some of them are beasts. Beasts are generally the much bigger ones. Here we have Invoke Dominance. It's a fast card that has Preserve, which is a really cool mechanic. It says Preserve. This is put into your material deck, preserved as it resolves. As you materialize, you may instead return a preserved card to your hand. So this is great. So when you play this, when it resolves, instead of going to the graveyard, it goes into your material deck. And then instead of materializing any card, you just put this in your hand instead. So you can just keep playing it over and over again. It's great. Your champion gets +3 level until end of turn. You can't activate non-ally cards. So it's just a great way to give you that level so you can attack with your dudes. Here we have the Meadow Bloom Dryad. I really like this card. This is another card with Preserve. You can just play it over and over. It's a 1/3 and it says, whenever Meadow Bloom Dryad or another ally enters the field under your control, put a buff counter on target ally. This is really, really good. You can have turns where you can just play a bunch of your stuff all at once to make them really, really huge. So this is a key late game card. We have the Terracite, which also has Preserve and it just draws a card. So this is great. After you've kind of like run out of stuff that you wanted to do here, you can just draw a card, an extra card every single turn with the Terracite, which is really good. And then finally, we have Big Chungus here. We have Virtus Gaia's Roar, which has Pride 10, is an 8/6, and on enter, allies you control get +1 for each animal or beast ally in your graveyard until end of turn. So it's a nice little pump, like a board pump. It's very hard to attack with because it has Pride 10, but you know, once you have level 3, you can always intercept and then smack them, which is great. So yeah, that is the Silvie deck. The Silvie deck, compared to the other two, is much slower and a little bit tricky to play because you need to have Silvie at a certain level to be able to attack with your Pride units. It's more of like a mid-range kind of thing. If I had to quantify each deck in terms of like overall archetype, Lorraine would be aggro, Rai would be combo, and Silvie would be mid-range. And in this circumstance, I think Silvie as mid-range is one of the more difficult ones. But she's fun, and a lot of people really, really like the character and like piloting her. If you'd like to, my, you know, just kind of like my 2 cents on which of these decks is the most powerful. If you're just like, I don't know, I just want to play the most powerful, Lorraine, easy. And then Rai, and then Silvie. And I don't think that's too much of up for debate for a lot of folks. I think currently in the state of Grand Archive, that's kind of just how it is. Rai is still pretty good, very combo-y. Like I said, very thinky type champion where you play a lot of stuff that gives you a lot of enlightened counters. Like some of these stuff early on that just gives you level plus, like plus two, or put 2+ level enlightened counters on your champion. So you just high level, put a bunch of enlightened counters on him. You also have stuff like Careful Study, which just puts 5 enlightened counters on him. You just put a bunch of enlightened counters, and then you can just kind of combo off and blast your opponent for an absurd amount of damage. Lorraine is just like, I attack you with my swords and my dudes. Like, it's pretty straightforward. I attack you with my swords and my dudes. And then sometimes I gotta do sort of tricky stuff with like Spirit's Blessing and returning your weapons back and doing some shenanigans with that. But at the end of the day, you just attack with your swords and your dudes. Silvie's a little bit slower than that. It's like, hey, my dudes are bigger, but they're gonna take a little bit of work to use. But if I can make it to that late game, then sometimes it's just gonna be really, really hard to deal with. So that's kind of the breakdown of these decks. I recommend them all. Just know that Silvie, if you get Silvie, it's much more of a challenge. So that's where you're going with that. These are the 2 decks that are more meta viable currently, but we'll see. This is just Grand Archive's first foray, and I'm sure all of this stuff is going to change as we progress. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know which of these that you'd like to pick up if you're going to. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.